Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your incredible support and for spending the day with us today to discuss China's growing assertiveness. Today's symposium is the first of three planned to raise awareness of strategic competition with China and actions necessary to reshape our defense and national security strategy. Our second presentation will occur this November at the New York Yacht Club in New York City during the Naval War College Foundation Sentinel of the Sea Gala, where the foundation will present the foundation's highest honor, the Sentinel of the Sea Award, to Secretary Jim Mattis. This very special event and Secretary Mattis are highlighted on the back page of your program. The third presentation will occur in the spring of 2023 during our annual San Francisco National Security Symposium. Additional details of both of these events are forthcoming, and updates will be posted on the Naval War College Foundation website at nwcfoundation.org. Now, just allow me to briefly recognize the following donors for their exceptional support, many of whom are with us today, for their support, sponsorship, and philanthropy of today's event. The proceeds, again, of which will benefit the U.S. Naval War College and its accredited graduate-level programs designed to prepare ethically minded military and civilian leaders to meet the operational and strategic challenges of today and tomorrow, including the great many challenges discussed today. At the at the Commander-in-Chief level, $100,000, Chairman Philip Bilden and Dr. Patricia Bilden and Shield Capital. At the Flag Officer level, $50,000, Chairman Emeritus William and Mrs. Penelope Obenshain. At the Commodore level, $25,000, Analysis and Resilience Center and Trustee Mr. Scott and Mrs. Alicia DePasquale. Trustee Captain David Hunter, United States Navy Reserve retired, and Mrs. Paula Hunter. Trustee Mr. Douglas L. Newhouse and Holly Bannister, MD. Trustee Paul and Mrs. Ingrid Dimitrick. Goldman Sachs and Vice Chairman Daniel E. Holland III and Mrs. Deborah Holland. Trustee Mr. Dwight and Mrs. Susan Supprell. The Sand Foundation, and Trustee the Honorable Juliet C. McLennan. At the Commanding Officer level, $10,000, the Admiral Robert C. and Mrs. Mary McCormick. Trustee Mr. Ralph and Mrs. Alla Isham. Trustee Emeritus, Mr. Philip L. and Mrs. Linda Dunmeyer. Trustee and Secretary, Mr. Mitch and Mrs. Debbie Waldman. Trustee Emeritus, Mr. Richard M. and Mrs. Barbara Rosenberg. And Trustee Emeritus, Mrs. Nancy Cushion Evans and Mr. Robert Evans. At the Executive Officer level, $5,000, Navy Federal Credit Union, Leslie R. Grosner. And Trustee Emeritus, Mr. Richard and Mrs. Barbara Bohan. We remain grateful to these exceptional individuals and to all of our sponsors, corporate donors, private philanthropists, trustees, members, and patriotic supporters for making events such as this possible and so very special. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our Newport National Security Symposium. I want to thank you again for joining us and for your continued support and advocacy. As many of you know, for over 50 years, the Foundation has relied on the generous support of its trustees, its members, sponsors, and donors to enhance and enrich the academic program and educational experience at the U.S. Naval War College. Your contributions reinforce and sustain the prestige and excellence of the Naval War College and its mission to educate and develop leaders in the strategic and operational challenges that lie ahead. Your continued support and trust in the Foundation represents an investment not only in the Naval War College, but in our great nation's national security and position on the global stage. Thank you again, and a special thank you to my staff, particularly Shauna McGowan, whom I think many of you might have communicated with over the last couple of weeks, if not days, and of course the National Events Committee and National Events Committee Chairman Scott DePasquale. Now, for the best part of the day, and hopefully you can join us, we will adjourn from here, and transportation awaits you to transport you down to the Newport Naval Station's Officers Club for a reception on the back deck. There's no better place in Newport to catch a sunset, so hopefully you can join us there, and we can raise a toast and perhaps get into some sidebar discussions about what was discussed today. But thank you very much again, and have a wonderful weekend.